We have Mr. Tobi in the room. Mr. Tobi, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All
Good
right.
morning.
Thank you so much for joining us again today. It was wonderful last week. I'm sure you have a lot for us this week. I'll be giving you the floor now. You can go ahead to start the class while the others join us. Thank you so much.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I hope our weekend was superb. Let me share my screen now so that we can get right into it. So, before I continue, last week a question was asked. Pardon me, I can't remember the name of the person that asked the question, but the question was, what's the difference between an end user and an external customer? And I answered it, but I discovered that I confused the two definitions. So I would like to correct what I said then. So the end user is actually the person that deals with the company directly. Because I remember I used POS as an example, while the external user are the ones that withdraw from. I remember I actually flipped it when I gave the answer. So let me continue. So we have service oriented architecture. This is when you have services in mind. When we mean services, we call them little workers. That's what it just means. Services. When you have services in mind, that means um, what and what you need to use for the system to run perfect. It's just like your phones too. Your phone runs thousands of services per minute per second, but you can't know because they are underneath. And even if one service should fail, it doesn't affect the overall function of the code, which is the same principle we are looking at here. So first, we look at service modularity. This is where I talked about decoupling. I remember I said something about decoupling last week that when you build a system, you build in such a way that if one service should fail, others can continue working without any disruption. Then we talked about platform dependencies, enable services to communicate across different technologies and platforms. This is where API comes in place, and you must make sure that you have all the APIs you need to get that working, because the only way you can communicate outside of your software or app is through APIs. It is very difficult because of security. It is quite difficult to do it except through APIs, because API, you program it in such a way that it will only request for the needed information, and only the needed information is given. Then you have business alignment. You have to get APIs or get services that are specific to or they use in a particular field. You know, you have to understand that different fields have different APIs they use. For example, if you look at people paying bills, the APIs and the things they use and the microservices they use are very different from the people in the bank apps, though they all deal with money, but what the information they need and the requirements for both of them to function properly is very, very different. The database two of them connect to is very, very different. You can't want to be doing bill payments, then you go and be looking for APIs to connect to bank database where you can be transferring money. It doesn't align. So that's what that business align. So you must know the microservices that your business or solution will need. Okay, let's move to design patterns. We have creational patterns, singleton, factory builder, control object. So this is actually talking about when you have designs in mind, when you want to build through designs, and there are different patterns like you can use. There are some that you build just a page. There are some you build um, there are some that you have to use object oriented languages, but and there are some where you don't have to. Now, there are, like I said, you can actually still build APIs by yourself. So you must know that, okay, what am I building and what is it for? Is it a single page? Is it because you must understand that okay, resources are going to be put into this, and if I'm going to get it, I must get it correctly. Then structural patterns. This structural patterns is very, very important because, like I said the other time, all sectors in IT solutions have the way their soft solutions are built when it comes to how it looks. For example, for mobile, we have specific font size, you know, interfaces. Like I said, you cannot put passwords up and email down. All those things you must understand them. Then behavioral pattern. When you log in, when you put in your username and password and you click login, a normal app will go to the dashboard. You cannot do your own to go to inbox because you have disrupted a particular flow, and all these things are things people are used to, and because of you they won't change. So they will just go and look for the one that fits their brain pattern. They will not change because of you. That is why design is very, very important. How things interact with each other, how what you click and what it does. These things are unspoken rules because most people are users. So they don't know that these rules are even being applied. They just know that this is how it is and it feels normal. But these are rules that designers, let me say designers, especially UI UX and product designers, they put in place so that it can be accepted by the general public. Very, very important. Then database design. You see, database is very, very important because it serves at like I won't say the brain, I will say the memory. And how each memory is called is actually very important because when you have a good database from the beginning, a lot of things are simple. Your database can also be audited, can be indexed. And if you have an indexed database, you can easily, it moves and works faster. Now, for database, there are two types. There's entity relationship and there's no SQL. That's no entity. Let me just say server query language. And what it means is for the SQL, which is entity relatable language, you have things like identity, attributes, and relationship. Ident, ident, Identities means okay, what are the things that I need to be in this table? I'll use different tables. I'll use table now. Okay, you have name, number, dates. The attributes are the things you tell the server that okay, names will just be alphabet. Like I said, age will be numeric, date will be date. So the system knows how to classify these things, and there are ways the server will process them to give you better result. And relationships is when you have keys. So for every database or for every table, there is a key. For every person or for every entry, there should be a key. For example, if I have ID number 2, for example, or let me use bank account. Let me use our bank account, for example. Your bank account can actually be a key, that once you log in and they see that okay, this is the bank, this is the account number of this person, it gives you your balance, everything, because the key will only give you your own. Then, if you want to check for history, history is another database entirely. When you click history, bank history, it will relate it to the key you are bringing. There will be a key that will be present in the history table that identifies your information. So it is that key that it is going to work with to give you the data related to just you. That is the relationship part. So there's what you call the primary key and the secondary key. The primary key is the key that is you. Let's say your name. Then the secondary key is that primary key here will be a secondary key in another table. That's the bank number, account number I was talking about. In your own profile, it is your primary key. But let's say you made a transfer. So when it comes to history or transfer history, it will be a secondary key because that is not the table that it is from. It is just a way to reference your first table. So it becomes the secondary key, you know. Now, creation, logical, and physical models. So now, these models that they are talking about are they are things that when you are things you have to consider when you are creating databases. Like I said, indexing, very very important. Apply normalization principles. Don't That's like I said, you have to obey certain rules to get everything intact. Like if you look at the diagram, the project Phoenix, you have the customers, it goes down to order, it goes down products. When you order something, a key from the product will go to the order to show that this was what was ordered. That key in order becomes a secondary key, but in product, it is a primary key. And if a customer should buy in order, even the customer ID becomes the secondary key in orders, but it is a primary key in customer table. And when you look at it, it goes down, down, down. Once a key is referenced from another table where it is a primary key, it becomes a secondary key. They optimize for performance and integrity. That is when I talked about indexing, where it can search very, very fast because everything you obey the first three. If you don't obey the first three, your performance will be very, very poor. You must obey those first three before. This first three, in fact, is what you now call the optimization, because without having the right identity, attribute, or relationship, performance will be bad. Without obeying conceptual logical models, performance will be bad. If you don't apply normalization principles, performance will be bad. So these first three are actually the cornerstone of performance and integrity because you don't want to search your database now and you are searching for Tobi and to lose information is coming out. That means you did obey this first three because if you did, that won't happen. So let's move to no SQL design, document based key value and graph database design pattern for modern. You see, no SQL is actually is a modern database, but it cannot still beat um, SQL database because SQL database is relational, like it says, and it gives relationship between plenty tables. But no SQL doesn't do that. It stores it in hierarchy. Like it will just take Tobi and you store everything under Tobi. There won't be any other table. It will just store everything under my place. So that one they deal with what you call they deal with keys too. But the way the key works here, it is not stored in different tables and no, everything is stored in one place. And the only key that no SQL uses is majorly it's called ID. That's the key value ID, and that ID is like I said, social media pages. That's they use ID a lot. User ID. That your ID is what will be going everywhere, that will be present everywhere to pick things from different places, from other people's place. So most of those social media, most of them use no SQL design because it gives you chance to expand because no SQL means you can expand without constraint. And the expansion is different for everybody. It's like a personal database for everybody. But there's a way it stores just keys. It doesn't store um, information. It stores just keys. Like I said, if you want to use social media now, I have 2,000 followers. I don't need all the 2,000 people's information. I just need the keys to their profiles. That's all. Once I have the keys to their profile, the 2,000 of them, it will retrieve all their information for me as friends because I'm using just their ID. I'm not relating tables to tables. No, the picking from that head, you'll be picking what that's
All right. Please let's give the trainer a moment. I think his network tripped off. So please let's stay calm. Let's stay on the call.
so sorry about that. My MTN just started behaving all of a sudden. I don't know what happened. My network just went off all of a sudden. So sorry about that. Let me continue. Can you all hear me, please?
Yes, we can hear you. You can go ahead.
Yes, we can hear you, sir.
Can you all see my screen, please?
Yes, we can see your screen.
Sorry. Okay. So yes, so user interface design and methodologies. Uh, in when you are doing, like I've been saying, there are several things you must follow when you are building these things. Like I said, when you want to log in, you don't say, okay, after logging in, the person should go to settings. Person obviously will have to go to the dashboard, whichever how or whatever you are building, the dashboard, the main screen, and user behaviors too. Like I said, you must always obey the general norm. Very important because you don't want to stress people. Design, most of the time when you are innovating and when you are innovating design, it is not advisable to do a very drastic change away from the norm because it will stress people. They are not really ready to. What people want is, what does it do? When they come on it, they come solely to do what it can do, nothing else. They don't really bother about design. Design is important, but they don't. It is that thing they need it for. They need it for, and people can be very hasty. They don't want to understand. They don't even. They just want it to perform what it performs. That's all. And does it do it well? If I click send, will it go? Or if I click send, it will bring another page to ask me other questions that I don't even want to answer, And It must follow the user needs, it must behave how it's supposed to behave, and when the user uses it, it must be able to perform the goal what they need it for throughout the design. That's how I'm going to classify the user-centered design. Then design thinking, empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test to create intuitive interfaces. You see, this the design thinking now is for the product designer because he is the one that will go out to search for um, what is norm in that field and what is the designs that are, for example, there's what you call material design. Windows use material design, that's flat surface designs. Windows uses material designs a lot, and for them it is the best. And that's why if you notice, even this Zoom, if you look at most of the interfaces, they are very flat. They try to create some edges, but they are very, very flat. That's material design. Even the presentation, you can see that everything is flat. Everything is flat on the screen. That's what you call material design, and it is very good because it minimizes a lot of loading time in design. So you will do all this research and you will look for the best possible design. Colors too. For example, finance now mostly it's supposed to be blue. Most they use mostly blue. That's why I see Paystack is blue. PayPal too has a bit of blue. Blue is very good for finance software. For um, anything readability, anything that has to do with reading is black and white. Black on white surface or white on black surface. Other things come. That's what Instagram is using. That's what Twitter is using. It's either black on white surface or white black because of reading, because it's text. So all these things are things you must put into consideration when you are building. It will be very abnormal of you to build something like Twitter with red font color, where all your text will now be red. It is not facially appealing. But that black and white is very simple, and very straightforward. Then responsive design. If you open it on iPad, how will it look? If you open it on, because when you are building, all these screen sizes have different dimensions that you must follow in terms of image sizes, even as far as icon sizes. All icons will have small size, medium size, large size, and extra large. Those are the four types of icon that you will have. So when the app is opening on a screen size of, let's say, our phone is, I think, I don't know screen sizes, pardon me, but let's say the way to open on an iPhone will be different from the way to open on an iPad. And same with Android and Tab too. Because Tab is bigger, it will load bigger icons for a tab. But for a smartphone, it will not load that kind of icon. That's why they have different sizes and different screen sizes. And these are also rules that you must obey because you cannot use phone icons for iPad because it will look very, very small. You can't really know because in your eyes they look the same size because you cannot, you don't, if you start building and you now discover that all those things matter, because if you use a bigger icon size for a small phone, it will show when you open it. you know Everything will not stay where they are supposed to stay. They will be overlapping because the screen is small, it cannot accommodate such big icons. Three is width. The width cannot take it. So you are going to create problem. And by the time you now move to portrait or you open it on a tab, you now see that it looks normal because tab has a big screen, has bigger dimensions. So bigger icons can stay on, tab. So when you are designing, you have to design across platforms and across screen sizes. Very important. There's what you call bootstrap now, where you build for one, then it adapts to all. But most of it, not in all cases. Like it depends on the platform you are using to build. For example, if you are using Java to build, you have to get your icon sizes. But if you are using most web applications, you don't have to. It will adjust. Especially if you are using things like Bootstrap, JavaScript, there's a way it adjusts to the screen, but not every time. So you must always make sure, even if it adjusts, everything will not adjust by itself. You still have to correct some things. Before, what they used to do is, once you build for phone screen size, you will now design for iPad screen size, then you now design for computer. But now, because of some libraries have um how like flexible adaptation, you don't have to, again, it will adjust the icon size, everything according to the screen size automatically. So people now prefer those systems, but sometimes not everybody uses that system. Some still use the native system, which is the Java, you know. Okay, security first design. So this is security is most times not really spoken of and sometimes underlooked, but it is very important. It is not really important if you're a small company, but it is extremely important if you're a big company. And most problem is that because small companies don't really have anything to lose. Because companies don't really have anything to lose. Sorry, a minute. Yeah, sorry about that. So because they don't really have anything big to lose, most don't really know what security is about. But when you are a $1 billion, when when you're a $1 billion company, you start getting scared because a lot is on the line. You know. Sorry, there's a bit of noise. I'm coming. Let me sort that out, please. Yes, sorry about that. So let's continue. So threat modeling. Identify and analyze potential threats, vulnerabilities early in design. This has a lot to do with the backend person, because the backend person deals with the server and the database. So they are the ones in charge of setting up the security measures. For example, if you have a bad backend person or an inexperienced backend person, there might be a particular library the person wants to use, that library has a vulnerability that is exploitable. If if they don't use the latest patched version of that service or something, and they go ahead and use it, if an attacker should analyze your system and he sees that service or that library, they can use it to get access into your system. That's why it is very, very important you to for you to use all the latest or all the secured, known secured servers. For example, the companies with the highest level of server security, surprisingly, they are the betting companies. They have one of the highest level of security. I would have said the banks, but most of our banks don't store or use Nigerian systems. Actually, they don't use anything from. Though the betting companies don't too, but the banking companies spend a lot more when it comes to security because we can access their systems. But for banks, we don't even know what they use to do customer support. Nobody knows. So the bank, as long as they keep that secrecy, everything, because you don't even know the link, you don't know the web address, you don't know anything. But for the betting company, everything is open. You log in, you have an account, so you are in their system. So they pay a lot more for security, and they follow a particular set of principles. Then defense in depth, implement multiple layers of security control and safeguard. I don't know if anyone knows Cloudflare. So Cloudflare is a cloud security system where there's what you call DNS, where you can put your DNS there and they protect your website against DDoS, that's denial of service attacks. And denial of service attacks is designed to overwhelm your system where it will be so busy that it will crash and it won't do what it is supposed to do. It will overwhelm your server with so much request that your server crashes, and once your server should crash, there are a couple of things that can be done with that. So what most people use, for example, how Cloudflare treats that is they do what you call queue. They queue the request. They queue it. That means they line them up. Instead of everything to rush into your server directly, they they queue it up and let it move small, small, maybe 10 at a time. So with that will mitigate denial of service. So you must understand how to put all these things in place, especially in when you are dealing with cloud. With cloud, you can do it like AWS have what you call SQL. SQS, that's Q is the queue service, and this is one of the things it prevents. And you have the cloud front too, where once you click maybe facebook.com, it doesn't go to the server directly. It is received first by what you call CloudFront. So what that CloudFront does is it takes your request. Okay, you are looking for Tobi.com, then gives you a cached version first of what he has. It will not go to the server first to give you from it first. So when you now click on something that it doesn't have, then it will now go to the server and pick it up from there and serve it to you. So that is how another way of you know having multiple layers. I mentioned SQL now, and I mentioned CloudFront now. So those things are used for these scenarios because one of the most common things they use to attack systems is this DDoS, and is done through worm. They call it there are some viruses they call worm. So what they do is they infect a lot of systems with worms, one way or the other, and those worms are designed to work underneath to request for a particular server address. So imagine they infest 1 million computers with the worm, and the 1 million people are online, and the server is receiving 1 million requests at a go every second. It gets to a point to crash. And that's exactly what denial of service means. Or even the owner will have to shut it down because the money they'll be paying for server request will be high. So that's what the concept of denial of service. Then secure coding practice. With this, for example, there are some ways you write code that what you call overflow, where and what overflow means is you tend to when a request is being sent, you tend to give more than you are supposed to give in terms of information, and that can be used to enter your system. So there are some coding practices and guidelines that you must also follow, and you must mitigate for errors and make sure that you are security conscious when you are coding, because just like I said with the bank app too, if you want to code a bank app, you cannot code it that okay, after you log in, once you leave the bank app, session should close. It's also a security measure because someone else can pick your phone and just open your bank app without pressing username or password or biometrics, then you can do whatever it wants to do in your bank app. So there's security, but for social media, you don't have to log in every time. It's just one time login. But even with that, you cannot change password anyhow. So all these things are things within the system, and their security first designs. Then privacy by design, build data protection and privacy into system. Yes, see this data privacy. What it just means is do not store information you don't need to store. Do not store information you are not using for anything. And for example, now Gmail they are facing a lawsuit, or they've actually faced it, and the people won, where they were listening to people's information. They were collecting data more than what was in their terms and condition, which is a dishonest way of doing business, because in their terms and condition, this you didn't tell me you want to be collecting this extra data. So people sue them, which is a criminal act, because I have the right to my data and I have the right to do anything I want with data. But most people don't even know they have the right to their data. But over there, they know all these things. So they obey a lot of all these things that a lot we overlook in Nigeria. A lot of things we overlook here, they obey it, you know, over there. So you must always build these things into, because if people should discover that you are collecting more data than you are supposed to, or you are giving out their data, they will not trust you anymore. But Gmail is an essential, you know, platform. So everybody uses it, and people don't really have a choice, because some people, their whole career is built on that mail, on Gmail, so they don't have a choice, even though they just have to use it like that. Even likewise me too, even though I know there's nothing I can do. Even our phones too, there's nothing we can do. We just have to use it. But normally they are supposed to follow this privacy by design and protect our data. But some of them don't actually. So cloud native design principles, microservices architecture. This is what I said about um, decoupling. I'm still going back to decoupling, where you design application in small independent services, that communicate, like I said, over API. So different small system will be in different places, decoupling, where they now interact with each other, which is also exchanging information over API. And the version API brings most of the time is what you call JSON. When an API requests for something in another system, it brings it back in the form of a JSON file. And JSON is just a bunch of, it's like a programming language, but it's a server-side language. And it just gives you, there's a way you format the information that is being brought. There's an header. That header now is what we use to exchange that, okay, yes, this is the server I requested from. Yes, the information is coming from the server. Then containerization, package applicants with dependency for consistent deployment across environments. So this containerization, now we can talk of Docker. Docker is one. Docker is a container, and what container means is more or less like an enclosed server, where you can Android can Android users can request, iPhone users can, Apple users can. It can work for all platforms because it is in a container that works across platforms. Then you have auto scaling. This auto scaling now is, I know I mentioned this when you have, let's say, a server that can take 100 requests, or let's say can take 200 users at a time. Once you have 201 or 202, it will kick off another server that will now start, then they will now start doing what we call balancing. So that load balancing. So now load balancing now, what it does is once the request comes in, maybe 20 or let's say like I said, 202, it will now share it amongst the two servers to for equal operation. So the system will still be fast, but the resources that was acquired for that speed is very, very low. Unlike you building a system that takes 20 million users from the get-go and you have just 1,000 users, you are wasting resources because what are you going to use the remaining 19 million and 900 and something thousand space for? Yeah, and you'll be paying a lot for it. That is why cloud is actually better because you really pay for what you use. But over time, if you become big, actually the resources bills become exponential because of the way the IT, that's another um, thing entirely. So let's continue. Okay, development integration, continuous integration. Integrate code changes frequently with automation testing and validation. So this is where I was talking about having a deployment environment and a testing environment. So if you want to like deploy an update, you don't just go to the live environment. You go to the testing environment first with the same set of dependencies and the same server settings. So you then test, okay, is it working perfectly? Is it crashing? And most of the time you give the QA, like I said, you check it, it's good, then you deploy it to live. And sometimes you will still have issues. It's not every time, but sometimes you still have issues and you still have to re-update to check for those issues. And continuous deployment, automate the release process for faster, more reliable deployment. Yes, um, this continuous deployment most often is done after the testing has been completed. Then the what happens is that there are two ways to update your apps. There are the major changes and the minor changes. For the minor changes, most of the time they are design based. You don't have to update your app, by yourself. It will happen as a background operation, a background process. But there are some changes that you will have to download another version in the app store because they've done some things to it that the current code base cannot carry. So you need to download a new one that has the appropriate code base to carry what you want to do. So yeah, for the continuous, there are the minute changes. If it is a big change, it cannot be continuous because it will require you to actually go to App Store and update it yourself. The infrastructure as code, manage and provision infrastructure through machine readable definition files. Okay, these ones are what you call YAM, WAML. You can also use Python for infrastructure as code. These are written commands that you write as scripts. You use it to set up servers too. You write in such a way that once you run it, the server would automatically provision for by itself with the correct dependencies as it is written inside the script. So there are many server-side languages you can use for this, and the one I know of that they use very well is called .yaml, WAML. Okay, practical application e-commerce requirement analysis. Like this now is something that we've been doing. E-commerce platform just means where people do commerce, where they buy and sell. Basically, for example, Gigi is a vendor platform, but it's not an e-commerce platform because you cannot buy anything. Yes, there are shops there, there are products there, but it is not an e-commerce platform. For one reason only, you cannot buy anything there. There's no payment platform there, there's nothing there. There's nothing like that. You just customer and seller connecting together. That is all. very simple solution. Although they have little things here and there that need to put in place, but for now it works the way it is supposed to because it is not an e-commerce. That's why I used it as an example. Identify user story, performance requirement, and business constraint. Yes, with this now, before you can build e-commerce, for example, before it wasn't like that. Before you can have a Paystack account, you don't need when Paystack started, because I remember I did the platform, but you don't need business incorporation certificate, you don't need to prove anything so much. But now you need to bring those things before they can open a Paystack account for you, which makes it a little bit harder, and it also makes it a little bit more genuine, rather, instead of a little bit, makes it more genuine. Now, with this now, it is part of requirements that you must get. Then for user stories, like I said, and you want to build an e-commerce, there's no way you want to go through the user story that payment and checkout will not be there. It must be there. If not, you've not you you've not identified the correct user story. Because for it to be called e-commerce, you must be able to buy, you must be able to pay. Then performance. If you go, if you go to the site and you say, okay, I want to buy, and you click add to cart and you click buy now, does it fail? If it fails, that means your platform has failed because there's no way an e-commerce and your payment platform is not working. So you must make sure it is a requirement for a payment platform to be intact. Then business constraints, you must understand the things you want to sell, and also understand that if you are getting other vendors, it is your job as the owner of the platform to confirm what they are selling is authentic. If not, it becomes a problem for you. So part of the business constraint is identifying the vendors or identifying the product and making sure that it is what they want to buy, that they are buying, and what they want to buy, they are getting. It's very important. If not, that e-commerce business is going to fail. Architecture design, like we said, choose microservices, architecture and API gateway with service mesh. These microservices, like I said, can be as small WooCommerce. I know a lot of people know WooCommerce is an e-commerce platform. It is not only WooCommerce that is available, but WooCommerce is a major player in the e-commerce industry. Then to connect it now, you are going to, let's say, Paystack. You can only connect to Paystack through an API gateway. They don't give, it's only API gateway. There's a way they give you the configuration file that you now impute in your payment platform. Let's say WooCommerce now, because it is well integrated with WooCommerce. Okay, you now have access to their payment platform where you can now use their platform to pay. Then database strategy, implement polyglot persistent with SQL for transaction. See now for this database now, they are using two database strategies, relatable and non-relatable. See for transactions, like I was explaining using the bank account analogy. See with SQL for transactions, no SQL for catalog. That catalog now, it can just be list of products, or list of products. Let me just list of products. Why transactions requires more information, and because it requires more information, like time it was sent, what was bought, your payment method, your receipt ID, your transaction ID, because everything is going to be stored in a table, it has to be an SQL database. It cannot be no SQL, because with no SQL, some information will not be stored in a table. It's not even in a table. It's always like in a straight line with keys. More or less, this catalog just means what it will be doing is it will be getting the image link, image the product image link from the server. That's what it will just be displaying. That is why it is no SQL. Then security implementation, apply O2 encryption at rest and in transit and PCI compliance. What OAuth 2.0 encryption at rest and in transit means is when information is moving, information is either at rest or moving a server. And when it has rest, normally it is encrypted. The major issue that we'll always have is when it is moving, most of the time it is not always encrypted. And you need encryption too when it is moving because there is an attack called man in the middle, MITM, man in the middle. And man in the middle means somebody will just hack your system. Will now be in the middle waiting for information to come. Once information comes, he sees it first, then the information goes to wherever it's going to. So once somebody can do that and your data is not encrypted in transit, the person can easily read everything you are doing, emails, passwords, everything you are doing, if it is not encrypted in transit. So it is very important for it to be encrypted in transit. Okay, practical application, healthcare management system, design challenges, HIPAA compliance requirements. See, these requirements now, you and I might not really know anything about it because we've not started building an healthcare system. The day you go into it, that's the day you will know the legalities that follows building certain systems. These HIPAA compliance requirements now, I might not really know it because I'm not in healthcare. It might have something to do with healthcare. Um, Real-time monitoring, patient monitoring. This now, I've worked in the hospital before and I've used EMR, probably majorly an healthcare management system. Um, what they do is that once there's a patient, the patient is registered and all the vitals are registered, any nurse on duty will write, okay, this, give this person paracetamol every 2 hours, do this, do this. So every two hours, another nurse that has administered it will write, okay, I've administered this at 4, another one at 6. So like that. So that is what they mean by real-time monitoring because the softwares cannot do that on their own. It still has to do with human, input. And if you put this there, because the patient monitoring system is there, the nurses too don't have a choice than to follow the system and they actively monitoring the person too. Integration with legacy systems. Legacy systems really just means old systems, like the way they used to do it before. And one of the old system means is on-premise server. That means your server is within your company. It's not in the cloud. That is a legacy system. And in order to have a for you to have, I'm going to the last one now, high availability means that if the system should fail, maybe the on-prem should fail, you have a cloud backup that you kick off from there that has the database, current database. So it means that you have double point of failure, which means if one should fail, and it's also the same with disaster recovery. If one should fail, you have another system, that can pick up. Then you have methodological selection. You see, this methodological selection now has to do with like we were saying, the documentation from the beginning, that documentation from the beginning that talks about the user story, everything from the requirement. It is where all these things, the methodologies will be put in place with the agile development. Maybe, okay, is it every two days, every three days? every 2 days or every 3 days we want to be um, getting feedback so we can continue building? Is it every 1 week? So all these things will be in in that document that is being prepared that first time. Very, very important, because once you get that document right, every other thing is easy. But once you don't get that document right, you are going to make a lot of mistakes. Yes, choosing the right methodology. So complexity. Sometimes, sometimes you don't need to build something complex. If the business solution is simple, you are wasting resources, because a lot of people think the more complex the solution, the more effective it will be. No, actually, it's the opposite. The more simple the solution, the more easy it will be. So you have to know your approaches that you want to use. But most of the time, if the solution is very complex, you must be very, very careful so that you don't, you know, put yourself in a situation where you have to be rebuilding, or you are releasing your build and it is failing and it is crashing. So it is very important to understand your project complexity. Don't know how you are going to manage resources and how you are going to apply resources, because if you build a simple system with complex methods, you are going to be wasting resources. And if you build complex system with simple methods, you are going to be having problems either way. So you have to know the appropriate, systems to use so that you know, um, you can benefit from the business very well. Very important. Team experience. This team experience is very important. Very, very important, because you can't do it alone. For example, you want to build. Let me. You want to build. You want to build a bank app now. As you want to build a bank app, you are getting somebody that builds through WordPress, and the person is supposed to do your backend. You are in trouble, because you just got somebody that cannot actually do the job, And once he starts building nonsense for you, or when he's done building it, and when it's time to implement, or when it's time to use it to make money, when it's time to do business with it, to release it, it becomes a problem. It is substandard, because you did not get somebody that is experienced in that field. Very important, because they also know the resources, the methods that will be needed and will be used for that. Very, very important. Timeline constraint. You see, for timeline, the truth is that when you are dealing with IT guys, you must always put a timeline. If you don't, 5 months will pass, nothing will happen. Everybody will still be coming for meeting and be speaking a lot of English. You must hold them tight, because if you don't, they will not produce results for you. I'm an IT person, and I will tell you that sometimes you have more than one, two, three, four jobs. So if you don't put a system in place for your own job to be done, or for me to answer to you in a way, I would I'll probably be thinking, well, when they are ready, they will call me. When they are ready, meanwhile, there are some things already on ground. Without this timeline, you know, things might not be done, because they are going to treat your own task as, well, anytime. So this is anytime. So you might not really, really, follow the time constraint, because if you don't give them the time constraint, it's going to be a problem. Then maintenance, like I said, if do not have any problems or issues with your front end and back end. Very important, especially the ones that built it for you from the beginning, because they are the ones that know the system, and they are the ones that will maintain it for you. Even if you have a well documented, you know, a well documented document for the software, it is still not enough, because you need those people to maintain it for you and watch over it for you. Very, very important. Common information challenges. Like I said, methodology mixing, combining incompatible approaches can create, like that was what I was saying, that if you don't know the right methods for a particular build, you are going to have problems because some methods don't work for certain things, some work for certain things. So you must know what your build, the complex, how complex your software is or how complex your build is going to be, then you now decide the right method from the beginning, from design, from documentation, designing, research, that's the deep thinking, to implementation, to choosing your server, maybe on-prem, or you must know what you want to build, then know the methods you want to use for it. Over engineering, like I said, applying complex methodologies to simple problems, you are wasting resources. That was exactly what I said. Insufficient planning, rushing into implementation without proper design leads to technical debt. Yes, for example, you want to, there is a wireframe that the stakeholder is thinking of, or there is a wireframe that that type of software or solution follows. Then you decide that you want to be innovative, you don't follow it. Then you design something, the front end person does it on, the back end person does, and you've wasted 2 months. Then the stakeholders come and tell you, no, this is not what we want, or this is not what we discussed or have in mind. Do it the normal way. So you have to scrap everything. If that's what you mean by technical debt, wasted time. And once you waste time, it's always a problem. And brings us going to the last one, stakeholder alignment. Ensure all team members understand and follow chosen methodologies. That's exactly what I'm saying. If you don't plan well, this stakeholder alignment is going to be a problem for you. Best practices for success. Start with requirements. Thoroughly understand business needs before selecting design methods. Like I said, you have to understand what you're building and the methods that it requires. Embrace iteration, feedbacks. You must always accept feedback. Like I said, um, Bill Gates said your angriest customer is your most valuable customer because of feedback. Very important. Document decision. Maintain clear records of design choices and the rationale for future reference. Very important. This one now happens to a lot of businesses where Mr. A will come from outside and come and fix maybe your CCTV, because I know that one is a lot of problem. Your CCTV. You didn't collect your password, you didn't collect your settings, you didn't collect anything from the person. The person goes. Then you tell the person, please, I have an issue, something happened yesterday. Can you help me come and view it? Then the person tells you, I'm in Ibadan, I cannot come. And you call another person, the person says, Ma, I cannot operate this thing because it requires password. Then you will now start calling the other person. And the person does not want to drop the password because he knows once he drops the password, you most likely will not call him again. And that happens a lot in IT actually. So you must always collect your documentations apart from even business and software development. Always collect your documentation for any IT solution that is being built for you. Very, very important. So that another person, at least to an extent, will have somewhere to start from. Because sometimes people become unavailable for one reason or the other. Plan for change, design system that can adapt to evolve requirements. Yeah, so this is where I was talking about native and non-native, where that's the legacy system and the new age system, which, and also in coding languages too. So there are some languages that have gone extinct that you're not supposed to use for your system. There are better languages that have been built for that system. And if you don't know, or if you are not in vogue, like if you don't have the information, you would not know. And they are going to build on an old stack for you. It's called stack. And once they build on old stack for you, and maybe you want to update something, and they now tell you that that update is not available in the stack you built to. Are you now going to build on new stacks? you're going to be from fresh, so it will handicap you. Like it's going to see unless you have somebody that is future oriented and builds with a platform that you can continue to update on, then you have a fantastic platform. Then invest in training. A lot of you see this training part, a lot of Nigerian businesses actually, I will not lie, I'll be honest with you, a lot of businesses have failed in this aspect. A lot because they don't invest. And this thing happened in our telecommunication and in our banking industry. I think for 20 from 2023 to 2025. I think they are just recovering now, though they are not fully recovered. And what it means is, okay, you have a designer, I mean, you have a back-end person, let's say he works for the bank, you pay him 900,000 per month. And because he's the best, he knows the system. And you know 900,000 is actually small for what he's doing. You now say because you don't want to spend any other money, you leave only in there. He's the one that knows everything. Live only in there. Then one American company comes and be like, wow, you have 3 years experience in this. Come, we'll give you $5,000. Just be working from your home. You don't have to go anywhere. And before he was going to work 9 to 5. Now a company says they will give him almost 6 to 7 times the salary he's collecting, and he won't even go anywhere. Obviously, he will take it. And once that place is open, it becomes a problem. And the reason is not because there are no other people that can do it. The major reason is that all the people that can actually do it have also been given those kind of offers. And they've all deserted the banking industry and the telecom industry. In fact, there's been a lot of the deployment, like migration out of Nigeria just to for work. They sponsor them, visa sponsorship, and they leave the country to go and start working for international companies. Now, where the problem is we don't really fancy internship in Nigeria. We don't understand what internship is. We don't even like it because to us it's like we are spending extra money for a job that you already have somebody doing. But most people don't realize that that job they are saying that you have somebody, once the person leaves today, you don't have any other person to do it. So in order to be careful, now I'm talking from the business angle, not an operations angle. In order to be careful, you need an intern. And training somebody to become a professional is actually cheaper for companies than hiring a professional. Because if you are to hire a professional, you start paying from the professional fees. But if you are training somebody to that point, the person has a level of debt to you. And obviously, when you are training somebody, the person will sign MOU that, okay, this particular training I've done, I will use it to work for you for 2 years for a little increase in salary. That works well for you as a company. I remember Jack Ma said when he first got investment for Alibaba, he employed somebody from, I think, a very big company for marketing. He got $5 million investment, and he got somebody from a very big company, forgotten the company, to come and run marketing campaign for him. And the person dropped the marketing campaign, and the person brought a $7 to $8 million thing. And he was like, my investment is just 5 million. How do you want me to do 8 million campaign? Like money has finished, you know? And the guy was like, this is even a very cheap, boring campaign that it does from 10 to $15 million campaign upwards. He had to allow the person go and train people to take up that space and that role because if you get or employ a professional from the onset, you are going to spend a lot of money. But if you train, at least to a point, they are indebted to you because you have to sign that 2 years, this particular training, this particular certification, you are going to use it for me, for my company, work with me for 2 years. And you discover that you'll be paying for less because you have invested in the person's skill. You are paying for rather you're paying for a lot more because the person is obviously working for you, even when the person has acquired the skill. And it's not the same if you actually want to employ somebody in that field from the get-go. So Nigerians don't really follow these principles, and that's why we spend a lot of money in employing people, a lot in employing professionals. It's as easy as getting an intern under somebody doing something before, even if it's NYSC, copper, just be seeing everything. Can you do it? Can you? Okay, yes, you are getting better. If that first person should leave, you have somebody to replace the person, or you want somebody to acquire a new role, you need to employ somebody in that new role. You don't have the finance, or you just feel this person is sharp enough. You can buy a course for the person or something. The person learns everything, then you give the person the project, then see what the person will bring out. So it is a way of believing in people and grooming young people, you know. And because of this thing we don't invest in training, it has created a very large skill gap amongst our IT ecosystem. A very large skill gap. The ones that are extremely good, they are too busy, and the ones available are not that professional. So, and because of that, to get the attention of the professionals, you have to pay a lot of money because their time is their money, and you have to pay a lot, and they've spot them with a lot of dollars. So, if you are coming in, that's actually what makes development very expensive. There's nothing more to it because to get the professionals' attention, you are but because there are no young people that can actually do it, and you don't want mistakes, you cannot afford mistakes. So that has created a lot of problems. So, and okay, the future of technical design, AI assisted design, machine learning tools that help generate and optimize system architecture. Okay, machine learning tools, LLM, which you can talk of ChatGPT, that's OpenAI, you talk of DeepSeek, you talk of Queen, talk of Gemini, talk of Cloud. These systems now, this this AI now, what they do is that you can say, for example, okay, I have this infrastructure. I want to do this. How can I improve my code base? You talk to it, you give it your code, your method, and tell you, okay, this is what I want to do, which I'll be showing you an example when in the practical section. Then it gives you how to refine it and how to optimize it. Edge computing, design pattern for distributed system at the network edge. Edge computing just is like what I said, cloud front is at the edge of the system. It doesn't get to the server. It stays, at the edge. And this edge computing is mostly done for regional like platform. Like I said, Netflix. Netflix can serve American people different content to Nigerian people because of technologies like this. Low code platform, visual development that democratize application creation. These low code platforms, they are good, but you can't use them to build complex systems. It's not possible. You can't build complex systems because pick and drop. Also, the things you are picking are pre-coded. So if there's no code for what you want to do, you cannot generate it. That's what low code platforms they do. It's pick and drop. Like I gave an example, Bubble. Bubble is an example. It's pick and drop. They can only do simple logic. You can't do big things. Quantum computing. Quantum computing. Okay, let me explain quantum computing in simple terms. When you look at your normal computer, it communicates in zeros and in ones. Zeros, one. It combines zero and one binary to communicate. Quantum means it can be zero and one at the same time. instead of it to be 0 or 1, it can be 0 and 1. That's why it's called quantum, and because it is 0 and 1, it becomes like the godlike, it gains godlike features in computation power. And this means it can perform things, it can perform operations almost 10 to 20, even 100 times faster than your average computer. And that's what quantum computing is. Then sustainable design, methodologies that prioritize energy efficiency and environmental impact. When you talk of energy efficiency, when you are not, for example, using more resources that is required, because even the cloud computing we are talking of, what it means is that there is somebody somewhere watching over your server for you. Every server has a physical space it is sitting. There's no server that's cloud computing just means you are not the one managing your server. It doesn't mean that there is no server. They are not just the one managing it. Somebody is taking care of it. The headache belongs to someone else. And for them to create these things, they must follow this environmental um, guideline, because they use a lot of energy, so they must comply with a lot of things. So you too that are using the systems too, you must follow a level of compliance from them too, so it will be easy for them. And it's the same thing with the, like I said, energy efficiency. You don't use more than you are supposed to. And because you don't use more than you are supposed to, the environmental impact is a little bit low, because it's manageable, because you are using a sustainable design, a design that you can improve on, that will not, put pressure on the whole system, both front end and back end. Please let me know when you want us to move to the practical class. And designing for mobile devices. So now we are going to look at um, the rules to obey when you are designing, or the principles when you are designing mobile first designs. So mobile revolution, mobile users, global mobile phone user worldwide represent the largest audience in history. Mobile traffic is higher than um, computers. Then you have attention span, thanks to TikTok. This 3.2 seconds, majorly thanks to TikTok. Before it was around 5 to 7 seconds attention span. Now it's 3.2 because of TikTok. Scroll. Now we consume. What this means is, this is actually a bad thing for us as a people, because how can you tell me the highest attention I can give anything is 3.2 seconds? If not, I move. That means to get my attention, you must, really, really try. You must really, really try. That's why you see a lot of people do a lot of nonsense content just to get attention. This is the major issue, because people's attention is decreasing year by year, and is causing serious problems, because you are now doing so much to get attention. You want to do something viral, then you start, your integrity will start shaking, because you just need attention. So that has been the effect of the mobile
Hello,
revolution.
hello, sir.
Yeah, hello.
Um, I just I just wanted to remind you that for the break time, so we'll be able to resume back around 12.
Okay, when is the break time?
It's supposed to be 11:30, but you can just round up within few minutes, and we can go on break, and we can come back to the class to have a practical session,
Okay,
so the
so we are going
students
to
with
have
their
it.
hands on deck.
Okay, no problem. Let me just. So for mobile, like I was saying, okay, for mobile first design, start small, begin design process with smallest screen. That's what I was saying about device types, and that you have to code for different, devices. But the new type of coding languages, they are more flexible. You don't actually have to code like this anymore, but for some platform you still have to. Progressive enhancement, add features and as the screen uh, capacity capabilities increases. So this is talking about the things your um, before for display there are processors that work underneath. There are some things you will put that the phone's processor or the OS itself cannot translate. And once it cannot translate that, it cannot work. So that's why for anything you want to build, you must know what is the technology that the platforms, like the OS or whatsoever accepts. For example, for Android, I think they are in 14 now. If you want to build anything for Android, you have to start from like Android maybe 9 or 8 till 14. You must be able to accommodate all that, If you add a complex feature that only that Android maybe 14 only takes, that app will not work for 11 or 13 downwards. So it is very important you understand the operating system capacity before you start increasing features and capacities. Core functionality first, yes. Prioritize the essential features that work seamlessly on mobile before adding enhancement. Like I said, do the things that are generally accepted first before you can now say you want to be flexible. And even though you want to still do all those things, please involve your Q&A so that they can test it very well for you. Very, very, very important so that it doesn't crash your platform. Yes, responsive design fundamental, flexible grid system. Use, like I said, see fluid layout that adapts to different scale sizes. You don't have to do anything. Flexible media images scale appropriately within their containing element. Like I said, you don't. There are the new types now. You don't just one image. You can use it for all platforms. Everything will adjust by itself. Media queries, yes, that apply different styles based on device characteristics. Yes, there are some coding in CSS that you will do that will only affect specific screen sizes. Actually, there are ways to target just specific screen sizes when you're coding, especially the design part CSS. I remember this very well. I'm very conversant with this one. Screen size consideration, like I said, mobile, tablet, desktop, they are very different. And the way you build for them is very different. See, for mobile, 320 to 428 units, because of the width, you have to know how to resize the images. Focus on single column, that's just one layout. Flash text target and simplified navigation. For bigger screen, that's tablet, you have 760, that's a 780p. Balance between mobile and desktop, that's the intermediate. So this one now will still have a lot of things, in it. To have more things, to have bigger icons, like I said, bigger font, bigger text, and phone. Then desktop will have big screen, big interactions, and because the processor for desktop is high, it will also have extra features like the way Netflix looks on screen is different from the way it looks on phone. That's an example. Then touch interface. So for touch, before now, our scroll phones have always been scroll. When you build through scroll, it's very different than when you build through for touch. Like everything is already there for the target. The smallest screen size or the smallest icon size should be 44 pixel, which means it must be big enough for your hand to click. Adequate spacing, that means you will not do mistake and click A when you want to click B. Consider turn zones on the mobile device. Don't put anything very, very important in the top corner of the screen and make it very, very small that your hand cannot click on it. Provide visual feedback for touch interactions. Yes, the way you touch on your screen and you see it like a shadowy, or a small animation, that's what you call touch feedback, where your phone gives you a particular interaction feedback that yes, this is where you touched. So even you know that okay, this is what I clicked on, or this is the tab that is currently on. Then gesture. So for gestures has to do with your hand movement and that creates certain shortcuts. For example, I remember iPhone, if you tap the back 2 times to screenshot, some if you use your 3 hand to swipe down, it will start reading your screen, and there are so many gestures like that that are available for different platforms, for different devices, which you can now incorporate into your app or software. Performance optimization for mobile. Optimize images, minimize HTTP requests, and compress fast for faster loading. Yes, sometimes you might upload a file that is a media that is about 1 megabyte, and because of the size of your phone, you don't need it to load completely because 1 megabyte is actually a big size when you are loading your screen. It's actually big. So what the system does is instead of loading the whole thing, it converts it to what you call a thumbnail. So it will just be the thumbnail that you'll be seeing. But the action within the thumbnail is when you click it, it should show something. That will still work well. But the image itself, it will not bring out the real size. So that's what happens when you upload WhatsApp status video and it will turn into something else for you, to lower the quality. It's because for their own system too, they don't want a situation where you be stressing their system. So they will just compress it for you so everybody's happy. For battery life, the more intense the operations are, the more the CPU will be working and the more your battery will be going down. That's why some people will say, this particular app used to chop my battery. This thing used to is because your phone is running more than it's supposed to, or running more. Yes, implement efficient caching and minimize data transfer for users. Unlimited plan. This one can be what you call maybe premium. For the caching is it works with how your app loads first time you click it. What happens is for caching technology, what they do is some bit of data is stored inside the software for faster loading, not from the server. So when you open the app for the first time, it is the cache that will load first. In your own mind, you will think the app has started. Meanwhile, it has not even gone to the server. It just brought out an information that's last seen by you, stored it, just the way it is, stored it, then it brought it for you. Then it will now go and request from the server, but you will think it has started working. Meanwhile, if it was to wait to go to the server and come back and you're still waiting, in your own mind, it is taking longer to load. But once it shows you something, it's already loading, it's already working. And load time and battery lives actually saves. If you get those two right, you are going to save data. Very, very important. You are going to save a lot of data, which is very good for longevity and sustainability for your solution. Okay. Navigation design pattern. Hamburger menu, tab bar, and breadcrumbs. These are all design principles, and they are used for um, different platforms or what you want to achieve. So for hamburger, hidden navigation that expands when tapped, saving screen space while providing access to all sections. This now works for websites where you will see 3 menu icons at the top left. Then you have to click it, then it opens, it brings home, about us, contact on mobile. But on On desktop, it will now be tab bar. It will be, let me say, navigation bar. It will be tab bar because it now be in form of tabs, or let me say menu, but it will be maybe home, about us, like that. But for mobile, it will turn to hamburger. But for desktop, it will turn to tab bar. Then for breadcrumbs is I will use Instagram for breadcrumbs. So it's not a must you use just one. You can even use three of them for your application, depending on what is being viewed. For these breadcrumbs now, that's where you look at settings. You know at the top settings, you see settings, maybe settings, apps, Facebook. You see at that top, you see those, that's what you call crumbs. It's showing you locations within the apps hierarchy. You see it a lot on desktop on your computer when at the top part, when you go to maybe desktop, home, desktop, download, you'll be seeing there's an arrow that is showing you, okay, after download, you went to a particular document there. So that's what you call breadcrumbs. Yes, typography. These are fonts, how the font looks, how it displays information. For font size, same. Minimum is 16 px so that it doesn't look too small because your phone is already small. You have to be able to read before you don't need to zoom in or zoom out. That's creating a lot of problem. Then for header or for headings, that's for topic headings. It has to be larger and probably bold so that though when you are writing the software, once you put H, it will automatically do that for you. H2, H3, H4, depending on the size and height you want. Then line height, that's the height between two between maybe space, character space, that is from one line to another. What is the gap, or what is the it should not be too close to each other. It should be between 1.4 to 1.6. I think Twitter uses 1.4. Yes, so it is very, very important for you to have this so that your screen will not look too small. If it's too small, your screen, you will not be able to read it. If it's too big, it won't really be nice to read because you have to be scrolling a lot to see all the information. Font choice, very important too, but this is design oriented in the sense that if you are building something for children, you have to use a playful font. If you are building something for fashion, you have to use a luxury font. If you are building something for banking, you have to use a serious font that does not have so much. So every sector has font choice, and you must always obey it. If not, there won't be coherence in what you are building and the business goal. Okay, content strategy for mobile. Content hierarchy. Prioritize most important information. First, use progressive disclosure to reveal details as needed. You see, for this now is the same, like I said. This means is, let me use Twitter does not really prioritize content. It only follows, I think, newest content to oldest content, and sometimes it randomizes it. I think Instagram follows, but because of the high number of users on the internet, this content hierarchy is already distorted because so many information coming at once, and it's very difficult to actually put hierarchy on them. So they just started randomizing it because what it means is that if I upload something by 4 o'clock and you are not online, it means you can never see it, because if you come online by 5, you will not see it. Because if you are going by content that comes first, my content would have gone itself. You will never see. So they started randomizing content. So this content hierarchy is not, yes, you only use it for banks, for your history, transaction history, where the most recent transaction is first, like that. But for social media, they don't use it, they randomize content. Scannable content, break up text with heading, bullet points. Yes, people must be able to read it at a glance. Very important because attention span is 3.2 seconds. They should be able to, it is very important. It's just something they need to see and they are off. Then, concise messaging. Yes, this too has a lot to do with the attention span. We must know what we are talking about very, very fast. Let's not delay. The menu, what is there? Every must have a purpose on mobile because the attention span is very low. Nobody has time. Okay, so anything you put on mobile must be straight to the point. There's no unnecessary animation, there's no moving text that is not necessary. Everything is as it is because mobile attention span is extremely low. Okay, form design. Okay, mobile form best practices. Single column layout, like a whole like straight line layout. I think there's a particular name they call it. There's also what you call recycle layout. That's what Instagram uses when you are scrolling endlessly. It's called recycle layout. Use appropriate input types for better keyboarding. For example, if the column is showing password or email, an email keyboard should be activated so that you can easily type in what you want to type in. Minimize required field to reduce friction. Yes, username, password, sign in, or you want to post. Space for posting, then maybe a button to attach image. Very simple, nothing unnecessary. Provide clear error messages and validation. For example, maybe I want to post an image that the image type is not accepted by the software, by the system. Then when I click on it, it doesn't say anything, it doesn't just work. I won't understand what's happening. If you understand what I mean. But if the error says, there's an error that says this file format is not supported, you already understand what's going on. So it is easy for you. Then use autocomplete and smart defaults. Yes, this also works, but autocomplete can be an issue because you can autocomplete something else. So you must always check. Though it's very good for fast communication, but you must also double check so that autocomplete will not give you something else. You want to spell car and you write cow. All those things. You must always check it so that you don't mistype. Submit buttons, yes, they must be large and very visible. Like what you can see here, see how big the send is. It's clear because after doing everything you want to do, that's the call to action. When you input all these things, you've not started really interacting with the system. It is when you press send, you actually interact with the system. So it is the send that carries that information to the server that, look, this person has dropped this information. Is it correct? If it's correct, then it returns. Then input consideration, like I said, email input triggers, email keyboard, very important. For example, on OP, when you want to type account number, it doesn't, for non-OP payments, it doesn't show normal keyboard, it shows letter. But for OP payment, it shows alphanumeric, your normal keyboard. So I know that's OP does that. And date picker, yes. Instead of typing date on your keyboard, you should always use a date picker that shows months so that there won't be error, because it's very important, because if there's error, the database will not be able to store it because it will not come in the right format. So that's why they use date picker. Drop down menu for limited options, and this is because of space. Sometimes it is good to use drop down where you can hide certain information and expand them at will, because you can't leave them on the screen. It will not make the interface look very attractive. Okay, accessibility in mobile design, visual, high contrast ratio, scalable text, and clear visual hierarchy for users with visual impairment. Yes, for this, sometimes there are some apps that make provisions, not all apps do, provision for color blindness. People that have color blindness, there are settings that you will do that it will change the overall theme of that app to favor them. People that, but it will only be for them. If you want to do it, to fine, you can do it. But those people now, they, for example, people that have for that can't see things that are far, they will have to um enlarge their text size because that's the only way they can see text. The cognitive, simple navigation, clear instruction, yes, and consistent design pattern to reduce cognitive load. What cognitive load means is how fast you understand what you are doing. If you, if you, like I said, you don't follow the normal design principle, this cognitive will be a very big problem for you because nobody will have time to be saying, where is home button? Where is, we all know home button is always the first on the right, on the left rather, the first navigation on the left down. That is where it is for almost all apps. If you now put your own above, you are creating problem for people because that's not what they are used to. So you must always follow the simple navigation principles. The motto, flash touch target, alternative input method, gesture alternative. It's motto. What this means is on your keyboard, I don't know, some people cannot tap. So they use what you call gesture to type. Whereas when you, there's a way you swave your keyboard where you can, is a, is hard to explain, but it's a function that is available in almost all keyboards, but people don't really use it. Visual indicator for audio cues. For example, when you send money on some of these banking app, you hear a success note, you hear something. Same thing with ringing when someone is calling you. It's almost the same thing where you have to hear the ringtone. So this because even your calling this thing is a sort is an app too on your phone, the system app. You know, so everything is majorly is simply an app, really. So that is its own job. So audit auditory cue is very important because when you get notification, the sound it makes, that's what so all these things are very, very important in your designs. So testing across devices, yes. Normally people test with emulators normally, and that's because sometimes you might not, if I'm using an iPhone, that doesn't mean I can't build for Android, you know, but like it says, the highest I can do is get an emulator, and that's the highest I can do. I can't go and buy an Android phone because I want to do one thing, but I can use the emulator. But when you want to deploy, you must test with build devices so that build devices with different screen size and different OS um, OS release, like Android 14, Android 13, must test with everything so that you can understand how the behavior in each device is, and if there's any problem, you can correct it. Network condition, test under various network speeds, 3G, 4G, 3G is already is out of it, 4G and Wi-Fi. Because yes, sometimes some apps don't load over Wi-Fi. Sometimes some even bank apps don't load over Wi-Fi. Sometimes you have to use mobile. I don't know why that is, but sometimes it is like that. Sometimes some mail self don't go under certain networks. Some mail will not deliver. I tell you it was rejected because of the network. I don't really understand this part because it has to do with the protocols. User testing, this is where the QA come into place, where they have to test in devices, different devices, identifying the pain points that, okay, this is what you said is the issue. Is it working there? Is it solving the problem? If yes, then good. If not, you have to go back to iterate. Okay, progressive web apps. Provide native app forms through web technology, including offline access and push um, notification. Um, Web apps generally just means, okay, is not compiled into a package. Rather, you use an address to locate it, something like that. But
Mr. Toby, so
yeah,
this is minutes to 12. We'll be going for break by 12 o'clock and we'll be back by 12:30. Please, at the end of the break, please just go straight to
To
practical.
practical.
Yes, please, straight to practicals. The break will start by 12 o'clock till 12:30. Thank you.
Okay. Installation. Users can install directly from browsers without App Store. Yes. I know a lot of us know about MovieBox. MovieBox has this progressive web apps, and what it does is, you go on MovieBox on your laptop, you will see a small icon that says install on desktop, and when you do that, it brings another screen for you away from the browser that will just be MovieBox, and it looks like a web app, but it is not actually a web app. It just behaves like a web app. Performance. Service worker enable caching and background sync, providing fast loading. Yeah, so when you do this, it behaves as if everything is stored on your system. Meanwhile, it is still a web app. It still has a server, but it loads that screen for you like you've installed it on your system. Meanwhile, it is not installed on your system. It is just a fraction that is installed on your system, and there's a background sync, and that background sync is what makes you communicate with the major website. But sometimes when you are offline, because of the caching technology, you can still do some things because some things are still stored in it, but you cannot have the full functions if you are actually offline. So that's how progressive web apps work. Okay, cross-platform consideration. You have the iOS design. They are actually different because the both, when you are uploading or deploying to the web store, that's when you have to follow, you understand a lot of these rules. There are a lot of rules, two of them for you. And for iOS, it is extremely tougher than Android, and they have a lot of guidelines, a lot of things that you have to actually follow. Borderline of iPhone, you don't actually have to adhere to that. So they all have what they follow. Imagine mobile 5G network. We all know 5G network is where IoTs, that's the Internet of Things, that's when devices, gadgets can communicate with the likes of TV. You can have a tab, for example, that will close your curtain, that would put off your lights. That's what you call Internet of Things. That's when different things can communicate with each other. You can use your tab to open your curtain. Yes, those are 5G capacities. Augmented reality, AR. This is where you create animated life or graphics like real life, real. I won't say real life, but they look real. There are two types. There are ones you create an artificial space, and there are some that they take videos of a particular store the way it is, then they put it in an AR capacity where you can now wear a device or a glass or anything, then you can look at the store like the way it is, then interact with different things in the store. So you can see the shopping experience where you be as if you are in the store, but you are not actually there. But because of the way it is, you be as if you are there. Voice interfaces, voice first design, and conversational interfaces. Now, this voice now has a lot to do with AI, voice assistant, Siri. This one is talking about Siri. Siri is a little bit different from normal AI because Siri has a constraint. It doesn't have the ability to perform actions, certain actions. It cannot pick your call. For example, it cannot unlock your phone. So, yeah, it's limited to what it can do. Though it can call out, Siri calls, so it will call, but it cannot pick your call.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Toby. Let's go on break now. Um, The students have been on the call for about 2 hours now. I think they need to get to stretch out, get their coffee, and all of that. So we'll be going on the break now, and we'll be back by 12:30 for
Okay.
the practical session.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll be waiting. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. So for the practical section, we are going to be looking at how to use AI in practical sense. So everything I did for this practical section was done using AI, and I will show you the process, and we are all going to follow through. The thing is, AI can be used to um, build a lot of things, and it actually works with your level of intelligence, basically, and it is what you tell it to do, it will actually do. So what I built is I built um, a payment, I built like a bank app. Then I interconnected I just interconnected two tables, which is the bank account table and um, the transfer history table. I want to use that to explain relational database to you, and I want to use this to explain mobile applications to you. As you can see, as I come down, it still shows um, that it is still aligned. So first things first, when I wanted to build this, as you can see, I want to show you because I use AI practically almost, if not every day. So as you can see, I told because one thing about AI is that AI is consciousness on its own, basically. But the kind of consciousness it is, it needs your intelligence input, basically. Without you, AI is not intelligent, and it can only take your own level of intelligence. It cannot do more than how you think and what you think about, basically. So let's look at it, the prompt I gave it. I said I want to create a practical project for this. I uploaded the course document, basically, and I said I wanted to create a project mini banking app, but the database will be in SQL and will be hosted on XAMPP. We outlined everything that is needed first, then we'll proceed one step at a time. So it did this thing. It created, based on what I told it, you see, it created a robust system for me. But I know I cannot perform a robust system, or I cannot implement a robust system because I will need APIs, I will need a lot of things to operate on a robust level. So after generating everything for me, then I re-instructed it. Because one thing about AI is that you can use AI to do a lot of things if you are open to it, but a lot of people don't really know how to use it, or they've not formed the habits of using it, So now I told it, no, what you did is basically too much. That let's tone it down and create something front end interact with back end. So I just want to do a bank transfer process. So and create a customer dashboard. I gave it everything, create 100 account numbers and names for me. And this is the database schema. Like I said, these are the fields. These are the this ID is the primary key for the bank accounts. So it's already there, unique ID. Then account number. This voucher means it will only take 20 characters. That is uh, that's the amount of characters to take, just 20. That's why it is put there 20. The moment you do 21, there will be an error. It will not accept it into the database. The account number two, account name 100, then bank name see 100. These are the number of character that space can take, that column can actually take. And varchar means variable character, is more or less like is a general word for all characters basically. So now see, I don't even have to write anything. It wrote the script for me. So if you look at the script that it wrote, not null means that it cannot be empty. That means it cannot be empty. And this unique means only one person within the database can be assigned one to one set of sequence, maybe a number, maybe account number, only one person. Account name cannot be null, that means cannot be empty. Bank account cannot be empty. That is what not null means. They cannot be empty. Once they are empty, is void. So I get it created, you know, the account number for me. Look at the account number. I created them for me. Mine is number 5. Account number, you can see it 5, and the bank is UBA. And normally, when all these things normally are stored somewhere within our banking systems, each bank have their database, and everything is interconnected with APIs. That's why when you click an account number, you click a bank. The API goes back and search for that person and says, yes, this is the person you want to send money to through the account number. And it can only be possible because of that API that it is available to have access to the database. And it can only have access to what, for example, how weird will it be if you type somebody's account name and the person's account balance shows? That would be a flaw in database design, because is not supposed to bring out that information. Once it brings that information out, the database is flawed. The API program is also flawed. So it will only bring out what is needed and when it is needed. Exactly. So these are the account. And this thing, I built it in less than 2 hours. Actually, that's how fast you can do things with AI. Because things you are supposed to do for 1 week with AI, you will do it for 2 days, even 1 day, if you actually know how to use it and if you are conversant with it. You can do a lot and you can move very, very fast with AI. So I told it, okay, step by step on how to create everything. Give me how. So AI is another tool for learning. It will give you, before it's Google, and Google was very large and ambiguous, so many things in different places. But with AI, it is very specific to what you want and what you need. See, it gave me the code self for the creation of the table in XAMPP. It gave me how to actually do it in XAMPP. So let's see. let me let me create another table that will have another name so that you can see. I'm going to copy this code. Then I come here. This is the database. Then you come to SQL. You can see this is my XAMPP. And I can say, let me paste it. So instead of me giving it the name bank mini bank demo, I can say big bank demo. So let me run it. Go. See, it has created this. So you see that only bank demo. So once I refresh, see it appears big bank demo. And that's how to simply create a test environment on your system. Now I want to show you the XAMPP network. Sorry. Yes, this is the XAMPP. So this is like a server running on my system. This is like a test environment. Anything I do here now, if I want this now cannot contain server basically for it. And these are the services running. You can see Apache is running. You can see Apache is running, MySQL is running because I'm using database. So now that the database has been created, so the database has been created, you can open it. Okay, let's use the main one because I have not populated it. Let me use this one. So it's the same thing. So you can see I have, this is how basically your bank account or your bank information looks backdoor, basically, depending on who is viewing it. If it's Access Bank that is viewing their own, this bank will not be there, but this account number, account name will be there, and some other information. That is how it will be. Then if you look at, before before we continue with this, let's just finish with. So now that we created just wanted to show you how it is being created. So after it gave me that, it even gave me an alternative option to create the SQL, that's to create the database. It even gave me for Mac and Linux, for in case, then for testing, it gave me how to test. These are the normal things that programmers do, but even though you don't know how to do it, AI can actually put you through on doing a lot of things, a lot of these things. So we continue. So now, after creating it, told me, okay, I need to write the code for you. Okay, go ahead. So he wrote the code for lookup, and this lookup means that this is I'll call it worker. This is the person, this is the program or script that goes into the database and picks and look at the database and say, okay, you are typing this account number. Let me show you. Let's say receiver's account number. Let me do this. You see that my name pops up, but if I change it to 9, you see another name pops up. That looker now is the one checking that once I type, let me go to 11, see another name comes up, Ifeoma Onweka Access Bank. So I'm just giving you just showing you how basically your bank apps work from behind. These are the things but normally this is not available on your mainstream bank apps. It only works like this when you are putting the bank account and the bank type and the bank name. So when you do that, it goes to search, then it brings back the information. But OPay now uses this method. OPay stores some of your bank partner's information. That's anybody you transferred money to before. OPay stores it, and it follows this principle. So instead of you going back to go and look for the name, there is a database in OPay itself that brings this out automatically for you. That's why it looks like OPay is very, very fast because of this functionality. So let's say I want to transfer 2,000 to this person. Once I click, sorry, let's say 1,000. It's actually giving me an error, but it's not supposed to because tested it. But let's continue. So when I did the lookup, but let me try and solve that problem. I'm starting. I don't know why this is not working, but it was working a while ago. But let's continue. I can still. So this is the. Hello. Hello. Is somebody talking? Yeah. Let me continue. So now, normally once. So let's go to the transaction table. Let me show you. See, it's showing that I've done 4 transfers and the sender is me. That is my account number, and the person that receives is this person. So what this is does is for this bank account now, as you can see that this ID is unique to me, and the account number is also unique uh, to the person. Let me use me as an example. This is also unique to me. Then when you now come to transaction, in here, this this can be the primary key and this can also be the primary key. But most likely the ID is the primary key, you know. Then when you now come to, but when you go to, um, when you come here, you can see that there's another primary key for transaction, which is the ID keys for transaction. It is not the same primary key for this one. So now when you come here, what you use, what is common in both of them are these two, the sender account and receiver's account. So here, this account number becomes a primary key for this, because let's say you want to call something from here, maybe you want to check transfer history to everybody that sent money to, let's say, this account number, or everybody that sent money from this account number. All you need is just little SQL code. That it will give you the database because of the secondary key here, which gives you access to both tables. So with this, you can actually call information from here using this bank account as a reference, which would now be a secondary key here. But here, it is a primary key. But in transaction, it is a secondary key. But in transaction now, this cannot be the primary key here. But it cannot be available here because this is the first table. You know, this is the primary table where everything will be. So here, almost everything here in the main table is, they are almost all primary keys. Most of the things in the main table are primary keys because every other table we actually have to pick something from here so that it can also always reference full information from this. Now, as you can see, for as you can see, so that was what I created. As you can see, the transfer history is also here, the date is here, the status is here, the receiver is also here. So all these informations now are also stored here, and that is where all the information are picked from. Everything here is exactly everything that is shown here, and that is how almost all your bank apps work. The way they are shown are the way it is in the back end. Though some informations you can, like, if you notice now, the ID, you're not seeing the ID here. The ID does not need to show because the ID is like the primary key and it's only used mostly for backend. Though IDs are always more complex than this. They are not always in one, two. This is more or less like index. They are not always one, two, three, four. When you have a situation like this, it will be the bank account that becomes the primary key, because that is unique to everybody. Though this can also be the primary key, but it cannot work for other tables. So when you are building a database structure, all these things are things that you must always understand, because if they are not, if you don't follow these principles, you are going to have a problem. Now, I am sure the reason why I'm having this error is actually because this cannot, or this is not linking to the database. That is why I'm having this error, and to solve it, I will actually have to tell this kind of situation now is when your bank tells you there is no network. Basically, it's just telling you there is no network because you cannot transfer, you cannot do anything. See that when I actually did this, it actually worked. Like it worked very, very well. Now that I want to show you guys, it's not working. That's a typical example of testing and deployment. Testing, you can do it 10 days, 1 week, it will be working once you deploy. So you must always be ready for that level of how will I put it? That level of when you don't know what is going to happen, you must always have contingency plan. And when things like this happen, there's what you call rollback. You quickly roll back to a version, that was working, in order to save yourself some stress, and you now have to, re-strategize. So now, so I created, or see, this is what I was telling you about JSON. This is a JSON file. You see how it came? Status success. It comes in this way. It is only telling you that this now only giving you the information that is needed. It will not bring out any other information. And the way it brings out the information is the way the information is going to be displayed here. You can see it, account number, bank, balance. It's going to bring out everything just like that. So see, we created the index, wrote the code for me. I didn't have to write anything. All I just needed to do was just copy and paste, copy and paste. I didn't actually have to write anything. So sometimes, to get things done quicker, this AI can be a lot of assistance to you if you know how to use it. If you can create a whole marketing plan, you can create a whole new business plan, you can create a whole new business ideas from it. A lot of things, as you can see, I've created a lot because I use it a lot. A lot of things using a lot of different things using AI. See, this documentation is actually for a software that is being built. So I used it to prop some things. So it's something that if you follow it through, like this now is the dashboard database there to show you. That was the test. This is the dashboard. You can see how it is here. That is how it is here. So we continued. I told it, oh yeah, when I said, let's do one step at a time to decide. After we've checked everything, okay, this is where we are. So we're following each other step by step. I was guiding it in what I want. As you can see, I'll pick the next step for you. Add a live lookup experience to the dashboard. So the front end fetches account details as user types with input validation. So there are a lot of things it can actually give you too if you are interacting with it at a specific level of intelligence and professionalism. So that is what AI actually really works with. So a lot of people, when they say they don't understand it, is you just interact with it like an intelligent entity, then it will give you your results. So now it updated everything for me. I didn't have to write anything. I just gave it some instruction. All the codes is just copy and paste. And it also gave me how to test. And we continued we updated the database. We created the transfer, um, the transfer function. You see, all this code normally it's supposed to take me at least 1 week to even write, but with AI, you can do it in seconds. So, and this one is not even the paid one. There's still the paid one, which I can show you. That's that one now. You train the AI. There's what you call AI agent. Let me try and see if that one now you pay for it. That one is not free AI platform. You pay for. So let me show you billing. You see the amount I have. I have $6, and that $6 I will continue using it till. A lot of people don't know this part about AI actually, but this part is actually the part that does heavy work actually, not the normal one everybody sees. So when you come to dashboard, you can see charts, you can build AI agents, you can do audio transcribing, imaging, videos, AI assistants. This is where you build all these things. But most of the time, then for AI agents in an external environment, there's what you call keys, API keys. This is where you now say something like, okay, you have a website, you want to build an AI customer agent, service agent. This is where you get the key from. So once you get the key, there's a way you impute the key in whatever platform you want to use. Then you have created an AI agent. Then you give it instructions. Let me use this one. I think I built something small. Yeah, so I built something. You see how it works. Assignment, when you see, just give it instruction. You are a writer, you are whatever, you are my product manager, and from there it will be doing the work of project manager for you, nothing else. So that's how you build AI agents for. But this is not automation. Automation is different. AI automation is very different from this. This does not have the ability to physically affect anything. It's just response. But automation can do things on your behalf. That's another level of that one. That one too is available, but is of higher, you know, higher operations. So that's that. So we continued and we built everything with the testing stage. See, and now all those times that it was writing those things, the dashboard was not complete. So I gave it another set of tasks. Do this, do it like this, do it like this. So you can see what happens then. Oh, it replied, it gave me the structure, then created what it needs to create to get the command going and to get the solution. Most of all these codes, if I'm to do it myself, like I said, it's going to take me days, it's going to take me weeks, and a lot of research. A lot of research. You don't have to even know how to code the language. All you just need is how to give it instructions, and it will do everything for you. AI is the knowledge that and expertise that you don't have. It can become anything on your behalf, and that's the beauty of AI. It created that for me. So for everything I tell you to create, it eventually goes back to rewrite certain codes to accommodate, those things. And normally that is how um that's back and forth when we talk of the agile, where okay, what is stopping you? What are the features? So these are the features. Now I said something like stakeholders can tell you we want this to move this way. They don't know you have to break down some systems to make that thing move that way because of what you've done. That's a typical example here. As you can see, it has to go back and replace the index because of the instruction I gave it and because of the new functions I gave it. So it has to go back and rebuild, and that's how it is too. So that's why aligning with stakeholders is very important so that you don't waste your time, because before now, back end guys and front end guys, they write these things manually. So if you are changing things, it's going to delay and it's going to affect the deadlines. Okay, this looks good. I want the receiver's name and bank to show when I input it. So this is where I input. So it went back, updated my index again. That okay, you want this? Okay, let me get it for you, and that's the end. So it's telling me, would I like to enhance it? A balance. I purposely did not go any further so that you can see where we can see that everything was done step by step according to how I instructed it. And it was even doing more than I instructed, but it was doing it within my instruction. So you can see a balance refresh button to check for real-time updates after transactions. So it's even telling me, why don't we put this? Why don't we involve this? So if you work with AI a lot, it actually improves your intelligence because it is knowledge specific and skill specific. You don't have to you don't have to know so much. It will hand everything over to you and it will build everything according to your specifications. So everything is all about you. You are the brain of everything. So you are the ones that is going to direct it on what to do. And when it was done, and obviously this is what we got, and this is the database. This is the database that was gotten. These are the tables. Um, these are the things in the table coming. So yes, that is basically it for the practical. I just wanted to use AI to show you um, what can be built and the process at which things are being built, the SQL designs, how you must maintain the data integrity, the keys, and the information to store at every table. The essence of relational database means that all tables are related with each other one way or the other and is with the presence of primary key in one table becomes secondary key in another table, and that is how um, my SQL works. Relational database, all tables are interconnected with each other, and with that, you can easily retrieve data, and data can be easily indexed, and information can be easily retrieved. There are traces, also traces of activities. Activities are logged according to who and what is being done and transactions that have been made. So this is typically, in simple terms, how your bank works. And as you can see, as this doesn't work, it is a typical example of when an application cannot connect to the back end. When your bank is telling you, you cannot transfer money, our network is not going. Once they say our network is not going, this is most likely the problem. The access to the database, they don't have it. And once they don't have it, no matter what you do, there is nothing they can do. This now, I will have to go back and check, okay, this is saying this, what is wrong? Immediately things like this happen, your maintenance will kick in. Hello, backend, what's up? This is happening. I'm getting error. What should we do? What can we do? Okay, I'm coming. Let me check it. So the backend goes, your IT staffs, they go in all out and they check what the problem is and they try to solve it. Sometimes there are some ways to check for this problem. For example, we can do um, this. This is also a way to check it. Once you click send, normally this will give you an error, but I think majorly because it is not connecting to the database, and I don't understand why. And like I said, these are errors that you cannot actually avoid when you're building systems. When I tested this, it was working perfectly. I don't even know what happened. As you can see, I've done some transactions on it, and I don't know why it's not working. I apologize for that, but these are the things that actually happen when you're building systems. There are always unforeseen circumstances. So yes, that's it everyone, thank you very much. And I hope I've been able to satisfy um, what I need to do. So thank you very much and thank you for having me. Now, if there are any questions, please do not hesitate to ask.
Please, I have some things to say. I don't know if I can go ahead.
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the class. I will try as much as possible to be diplomatic. So I won't, because I know a lot of people is going to be on the same shoe with what I want to say. We've been on theoretical aspect of this particular session since last Saturday. After a long theoretical part of it, the kind of practical I was thinking we're going to get is not what I think I got. Because for example, now today, I realized you work with two software, which you didn't introduce us to, because when we started this program, the SQL software we worked on was Postgres, if I'm not mistaken. But I realized today you work with my PHP admin. You didn't introduce us to it because as soon as we were opening it, I tried to even download it. I downloaded it already. And I think because someone like me or some of us who are just building a portfolio, who are already in line, might be able to flow to some extent. But for someone who is diversing into the IT, might find it difficult in the sense that you don't expect me that I don't even have idea of what you're just trying to come up to quickly go to details. So if I have to be using AI to do everything, it means I won't know anything. What in the case where I have a complex code that I'm not able to interpret? So I felt I wasn't carried along in a way I expected. To me, then your cPanel part, which is some example, XAMPP, whatever. I don't even know how you just from the code, you just go there. If someone asks me to explain this, I can't even explain it. Even when I have little idea of what you're doing, I still cannot really relate to the whole thing. So the whole thing was just flowing. I have to flow, but I felt we need more details on this. So I can't just be using AI because one thing about software IT is to be able to provide solution. And if I have to be using AI where I don't even understand what AI is giving me, it's not going to help me in a way. Maybe in our future, that's why sometimes we have people in the companies, they just come, they can't even do anything, don't even understand. I've seen people who have master in even hardware engineer, blah blah, PhD. You call them what is RAM, they can't even they don't even know what RAM is all about. You tell them what is they don't even understand. They just A to B. So I felt I was confused at some point. Please, I tried to be diplomatic. I'm sorry if I'm not, but I felt
No, no, there's no
I'm
problem.
expecting a lot beyond what I got. My personally, so I don't know of the rest. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you for the questions. If you notice the presentation or the class, there were a lot of topics covered, and that's one another thing about IT. Me now, I didn't know the platforms or database you guys used to learn SQL. Postgres is another form of relational database. It's just a little bit different from MySQL actually. There is just slight code, and the platform to use is actually a little bit different. And one thing about IT that actually encourage people to understand is there are a lot of things that you will eventually have to do by yourself. A
You can't say again.
I guess his network kicked him out again. Please let's give him a moment so he can round up the class. And if you have more questions, you can type in the chat box. the trainer would look at them when he gets back on the call.
Yeah, look, can you hear me now? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
so what I was saying is that let me use myself as an example. There are a lot of things that yes, sorry about that. It was my mic that the battery died and I didn't notice on time, so I've changed it. Sorry about that. As I was saying, so there are so many things that I too experienced for the first time. If look at the ZAMP, for example, now there's FileZilla, Mercury, and Tomcat. I don't really know much about those things, but if I want to use them today, I go and search for them for what I need to use them for, and I use them for it. One great ability of IT is not knowing everything at a go. The greatest ability in IT is being able to learn as fast as possible, because there are a lot of things you are going to come into play with. They are going to come into play that you won't even understand. So your ability to look at those things and quickly learn is actually what matters the most. Okay, sorry that I didn't introduce the softwares to you. Actually, it was an oversight. I'm very sorry for that. But just take a look at it like this. It is a new field for you and a new world for you. You can download it and actually play with it, you know. And what you said about AI, the truth is that I'm an IT personnel, and one thing about IT is you need to develop as an IT person is confidence in whatever you are saying. There are a lot of situations, like I said, that when I encounter something for the first time, I will quickly go and do a research about it before I say anything. I will not talk about something I don't know much. I can be looking at it and I won't say anything. I'll be like, oh, this is this, it does this. And I can go and watch just two YouTube videos. And any other day I come across that thing, I already know what it's about, you know. But because of my own level of expertise, because I've done that for a lot of platforms, a lot of softwares, a lot. So that is why I probably thought I was in my own head when I brought this software for you guys, the ZAMP. But ZAMP is basically a very good testing ground for people that are coming into IT, because it provides you your own server, you can manage your own database, and another thing is that all these things that I taught you, when you go and start doing the practice by yourself, all these things I said, you are going to encounter a lot of things that I didn't even mention. And in IT, that is actually the learning process. That is the beauty of IT. That is the learning. All these things I've told you, if you don't put them to practice, you will most likely not remember again, because IT is actually practical. You have to practice these things either with a team or to build something. With this app done now, you can literally build something for your company, maybe inventory, something, inventory. You can just, because obviously you have your records, you can connect your data, you can put your data, in fact, you can put your database on Google Sheet, then link it, to your software, and there are so many things, you can do that would be for you, and that is where you start from. you know. And if you want to build complex system, that is the thing. If you want to build complex system, I will not advise you to use AI. You know, the reason why I used AI for this is to achieve two things. You know, build a system that explains front end, back interaction between front end, back end, and the use of AI for so many things. That's why I used, you know, this example. You might think the example is not broad enough, but in IT, if I am going to teach you or go through a broad solution, it will even be worse, because simple things like this, you will not, like the database that I showed you, all those simple things that I'm showing you, you might not, because some applications will have 10 tables, and 10 tables means 10 different set of database. You know, some things will have thousands of data depending on what is being built. You know, the reason why I'm using this is I'm just giving you the simplest way. You know, these things can, you can use them and you can apply them. That's why I actually um use that as an example. So most of these things is actually for you to actually go and practice these things. Have you downloaded XAMPP now? It's very good. You can sit down with it, check everything, learn. You will now learn how to install it. If there's a problem, you continue. That is the essence of IT. That is how you learn, you know, how to become an IT person. You know, even if I don't tell you something, you can still go ahead and even be better than me. Next time I see you, you might be way better than me in XAMPP. And I'll be like, wow, are you serious? You did this because you went to sort out for information. So sorting out information is like 60% of your superpower as an IT person, actually, because you cannot, everything you are being told cannot, you cannot compare it to things that you actually practiced yourself. So that is actually my concept of using this as a form of practical for you. Cover IT, cover front end, cover back end, and also cover database. So that, if I didn't.
All right. Let's appreciate our trainer in the chat box. Let's thank him so much. And while we do that, we have the attendance form, we have the feedback form in the chat box. Endeavor to fill in both, as they are really important part of this program. So let's appreciate our trainer. Thank you, Mr. Tobi. Thank you so
No
much.
problem.
Yeah, thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
No problem. The AI solutions I give you is when you want to build something for yourself. Maybe you want to build something for your company, like inventory. There are so many things you can build. I can actually show you so many systems that I built myself using this app that I'm using to test. And that is how you actually build. You have to be practical about it. If you don't use it, you can't know how to use it. It's not something somebody, you have to actually use it. You know, so that is why I use this system to teach the practical class, so that you can start from somewhere too, because you cannot start from the complex. You have to start from the simple things you can do, so that if you are talking to complex people, since you know the basics, there is no much difference. It's just the platform that determines what is, how the complexity of what you are doing is the platform you are using. XAMPP is very simple. It's for your system. That's why when you want to use cloud, AWS, is going to be a different thing, but it will still be the same set of code. It's just the software that will now be different, you know. So that is how it is for IT. If you want to really develop in IT, you must get your hands dirty and do almost everything by yourself. Actually, almost everything will be done by yourself. So yeah, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tobi. Please, one more thing before you leave, sir. Your version of ChatGPT, that's AI that you use, is it premium or free version? And free version also do what you at least did with.
Actually, it was the free version I used to build everything from beginning to the end. It was the second one I showed you that is the paid version, but that one now is not common because of what it is used for. It's not so, that one is high end, very high end. So it's not something anybody can. That's what you use to train AI, your own AI. That's where you do all those training, all those assistants, all those AI agents. You know, you can't use the normal one for all those things. But that's where you do all those things. You give it information, you give it memory, so it follows through on, you know. So that one is higher level of AI use, you know. But the simple one is the free version that I used to just create something simple. If I had gone further, it would have stopped me, because if I start creating something more complex, it will actually stop me because it's what you call freemium. It is free until a point, then you pay. So that is how it works.
Thank you so much, sir.
No problem. Any more questions?
Please, if you have any more questions, please go ahead to ask. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again, Mr. Tobi.
No problem. No problem, sir.
So we come to an end of today's session. The recording and the material is the same as the last material shared last week, and the recording of today's session will be posted as soon as possible on the group. So please endeavor to get on them, practice, and learn more. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us today. We'll see you again next week, same time.